Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Why Many Cybersecurity Strategies Fail. And I'm Greg Rabine. I help cybersecurity solution providers scale using AI-powered systems so they can grow revenue predictably. And it's my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Aaron Gurgul, co-founder and CISO at Watchdog Cyber. So today we're going to start with having Aaron sharing with us his background and his journey to starting a boutique cybersecurity solutions business, and then we'll explore trends Aaron is seeing in the industry around phishing and smishing and ransomware, and common cybersecurity challenges for SMBs. And then we'll talk about opportunities and challenges. And really what I'm alluding to here is AI. So how do SMBs align their AI ambitions with the reality of governance, compliance, and management? And then we'll wrap it up with Aaron's thoughts and vision for the future of SMBs and cybersecurity. So, Aaron, can you start by sharing a bit about your background and journey and how those experiences influence the vision and culture of Watchdog Cyber?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Aaron Gurgul. I'm the co-founder and CISO at Watchdog Cyber. We've been in business a little over 3.5 years. I've been in the IT slash cybersecurity space a little over a decade at this point. I myself have lived through a cyber incident at one of my previous places of employment. It was the worst 8 weeks of my life, and became very passionate about never having to go through something like that again. So that's sort of where the cyber itch came from. My previous role, I worked for an MSP. We were trying to go more cyber focused. There was just some misalignment between myself and business leadership, and I just said, all right, well, we're going to start my own business. So it's me and a business partner right now today. He handles the sales side of it. I handle the operational side of it. Throughout the years, I've done probably close to 1,200 assessments at this point. And one thing that I found that was kind of frustrating is there's a lot of really awesome MSPs out there, right? A lot of their customers love them from a technical support standpoint, and they deliver great customer service and that type of thing. They all kind of drop the ball when it comes to cybersecurity, though. So we wanted to build a business that focuses strictly on cybersecurity and compliancy services, and that's where we are today.
Wow, that's really very impressive and interesting. So, Aaron, I see on your website, and I thought your website was great, talking about the competitive differentiators. But I saw I see that you're S&MB focused, and I saw this quote on your site: "Size is no shield."
True, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, as you know, nearly half of S&MBs still believe they're too small to be targeted, and more than half don't even have a cyber plan. So, from your perspective at Watchdog, and even before Watchdog, why does this mindset persist? And how do you break through that barrier to get S&Bs to take resiliency seriously?
Yeah, I think that it still exists. I think that mindset still exists because a lot of the SMB community, they don't talk about it after they get hit, right? So you talk to folks that are, about our services and about compliance, and you ask them what are they doing, and they said, well, nothing, right? I don't have to worry about compliance. There's no compliance police. I don't have to worry about cyber attack. I don't know anybody that's been hit by cyber. The only ones that get hit are the big guys, right? MGM, Home Depot, Target, like those are the guys that are in the news. Well, the fact of the matter is, just because you're a small organization doesn't mean that you're not a target, right? You're just too small to make the news. And I mean, I've got some very recent stories that prove otherwise. SMBs are very much a target. I've got two solopreneurs that we've recently onboarded just because they're living a nightmare, right? These are single, solopreneur businesses that are dealing with cyber issues. I've got another business on the west side of Michigan. They're a manufacturing company. They've got about 20 users. They asked us to come in after their M365 tenant has been compromised to do an assessment for them and what have you. So we come in, we help them clean up the tenant that was fully just chucked full of stuff. For instance, when the threat actors gained access to the tenant, they created 50,000 guest accounts. They created 100 distribution groups. They connected 15 random domains, and then they connected a bunch of outbound connectors from that tenant. So effectively allowing that threat actor to abuse that tenant to just do massive spamming from it. So we helped clean up all of that post-breach. We did an assessment for them on the rest of their organization. We found a ton of other skeletons in the closet, to which the prospect was reluctant to make any type of investment to protect the business. They were more focused on revenue generating activities than making investments on protecting the business, which is, I think, a little bit backwards, right? You should protect the business. Otherwise, you're not going to have any revenue generating activities to worry about. Interestingly enough, I was on my way to a cyber event last week, and while I was in the car, I got an alert on my phone for that particular manufacturer that one of their accounts, again, were compromised. So luckily we had some tools in place this time that we were able to cut the head off early, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your size. It doesn't matter your complexity. Everybody is a target. Everybody's going to be hit at some point. The question is, are you going to have the controls in place to minimize your damages, and do you have insurance in place to cover the financial damages of downtime and reputation loss and all those things?
So, wow, what a story. So you talked about insurance. Now, to have insurance, though, I would think you have to qualify for the insurance. In other words, the underwriter is going to come in with his cyber team and make sure you have, the basic, protection, cyber, technology and in place. Is that a correct assumption?
So today, for the most part, it's still a self-attestation, right? So you get an application, you get an attestation form, and you as the organization are filling out what controls you have in place. The insurance companies today are not deploying a team to confirm or deny what you have, right? That team usually gets deployed on your worst day when you need to make an insurance claim, and you're trying to make that claim, and the insurance company's trying to figure out, well, how do we not pay it out, right? Insurance companies are not in business to pay claims. They're in business to generate revenue. So statistically, at this point, 44% of claims are being denied because folks are not doing the things that they attest to on their application. Some of the most common ones that we're seeing today are going to be multi-factor authentication, password management, patch management, security awareness training, and backups. Those are kind of like your big five. If you're not doing those things, the likelihood of you getting a policy are pretty low. I'm not going to say impossible, but if you do get a policy and you're missing at least those controls, you can expect the policy to be quite expensive.
Yeah, understand. It's so yeah, I agree with you with insurance companies, right? They'll sell you whatever you want. But paying the claim is a different story. I mean, if you put down on your health insurance that you don't smoke, and then there's a claim in, and they figure out that you do smoke, I mean, you don't get. I mean, they're not going to pay. So, yeah. It's understand. So, You also spoke about two breaches that came to you, two different companies that had breaches that came to you. Is that typically how it works? In other words, these companies that don't have something in place, is it the attack that's sending them to people like you?
Yeah, so for example, that manufacturer, right? They have been a prospect of ours for about 8 months. And when we first met them, they were very hot and heavy to get an assessment done. Our primary contact there was the CFO. So she is of a risk mind, right? She understands business risk. Um, the owner, on the other hand, he has a little bit of a technical background, and so he just figures, well, I'm just going to self manage it. Now, with that being said, yeah, he has a technical background, but he's also working, 16 to 18-hour shifts because they're understaffed. And so it's like where do you fit the time in to take care of your IT and cyber needs if you're trying to grow the business? Growing a business, it's a hard thing, right? Especially if you don't have the staff behind you. So again, early on, they were very interested in getting an assessment done. Um, when we started trading paperwork back and forth as far as like an NDA and that type of thing, things fell apart. And then they ghosted us for 7 months. And then we got the phone call saying, hey, we're locked out of our Office 365 tenant. I think they've deleted our accounts. It says when I type in the username, the account doesn't exist. Fortunately, at that point, we didn't have any tools in place. So my only recommendation was you're gonna have to call Microsoft support, and I'll keep my fingers crossed for you that they can actually help you. Long story short, they were able to help. They were out of their tenant for about 10 days before they got access back. They got access back again, very like hot and heavy. We got to get an assessment done. I don't ever want to go through this again. And then they ghosted us for another month and a half. And then they got hit a second time. That second time, they did get a hold of us. They did get the assessment going. We did have some tools connected after that second breach. And like I said, it was about 2 weeks after that we stopped a third breach from happening because we still had tools connected. That being said, they're still very hesitant to make any type of real investment, which to me is kind of mind blowing. Between the two events that they had against their Office 365 event, or I'm sorry, their 365 tenant, their total downtime between those two events was 18 days. So that's 18 days of not being able to email, not being able to process orders, not being able to do much of anything other than their manufacturing function. I don't know how much pain some small businesses need to feel, but apparently their threshold's pretty high.
Understand. But I did see on your website, and I loved this, got my attention, trusted, budget conscious partnership. So I guess my question is, I'd love to hear a little bit about the pushback about the price, if they even gave you any specifics. Not that I want to talk about pricing, but how do you get around that? I don't know how many employees this company had, but small and medium size can range, 10-person company up to 500, or or even 200. Those are pretty sizable organizations that around an MSP or a MSSP, and the price tag, there's a price tag to it.
Sure. Yeah, in a lot of situations, right? A lot of companies that we talk to, they don't even have a line item in their P&L for IT, let alone cybersecurity. IT often falls inside the bucket of, an office expense or, or some weird general ledger account, right? They don't generally have their own budget for IT. Realistically, you should have some type of budget set aside for IT. I don't know. I don't remember the source off the top of my head, but came across an industry resource that said best-in-class organizations are putting somewhere between 4 and 7% of top-line revenue aside for an IT budget, and then 9 to 12% of that should be put aside for cybersecurity.
Yeah, I've heard the consistent. What I've heard is consistent with that, but yes.
So the fact of the matter is, just organizations aren't doing that. We talked to a very large manufacturer in West Michigan. They do, I don't know, something like $2 billion a year in revenue, and their IT budget is 2% of that, right? So I'm glad that they have an IT budget, but considering the size of their organization and them being multinational and things, it's a very small budget for what that team has to be able to do. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is like, people just don't have the budget set aside. For this manufacturer that I'm telling you about, where they've had these two successful breaches and then a stop third one, his priorities, right? Priorities are different for every organization. So for him, he's more focused on revenue generating investments, right? So for him, he's got a couple delivery trucks that are aging out, and he needs to make the investment of new delivery trucks. So for him, he's looking at, well, I can spend $2,000 to $3,000 on cyber security and IT services, or I can spend $2,000 to $3,000 in lease payments on new trucks, which will continue to move my product, which will continue to help me, gain revenue. Again, our argument is, you've already had 2 breaches, right? And we stopped a third one, so you have a target on your back. What good are those trucks going to be if you don't have a business? And that's reality, right? So we, during our assessment, we were able to actually uncover, they say, oh, well, we don't have any credit card data, and we don't have any personally identifiable information or any of that stuff on our network. Well, we found some, right? We found quite a bit, actually. We found, if we were to take the data we found and tie it to the IBM data breach report, we found about $500,000 of liability on the computers that we tested, right? So we said, listen, if you had a successful breach and this data was compromised and exfiltrated out of your network, do you have... Well, first of all, we know you don't have an insurance policy, so that's going to be a problem for you. Do you have the liquid cash to be able to come out on the other side of this? And he said, well, no, probably not. We'd probably have to close up shop. Well, how many other small businesses are in that same boat, right? I think a lot of small businesses probably run pretty tight budgets and operate pretty skinny, and many would struggle if they had to, quote unquote, self-insure, right? Which is kind of what this organization's in right now.
Yeah. So the one thing about a small business, and the co-founder is the owner, is the CEO, and
Yeah.
the money's coming right out of his pocket. I mean, literally right out of his pocket. So that's certainly, but it's just amazing that you have to have this type of conversation after 3 breaches, and so there's no playbook. There's no differ with a retainer. There's no relationship with law enforcement. So they call you, and they don't even have a retainer with you.
Right. So yeah, and at this point, everything we've been doing has been time and material, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't billed yet, just because, again, we're in negotiation of trying to get an agreement in place. But it doesn't sound like it's going to happen. So yeah, at some point they're going to get a bill from us.
Right. I hear you loud and clear. I mean, that's just what a fascinating situation. Wow. I mean, you could write a book for a college cybersecurity class with that one, right?
Yeah. Right.
Boy, oh boy. But I guess, I saw that you emphasized on your website a culture first security at Watchdog. So in your view, what are the biggest cultural blockers inside organizations? that make phishing and social engineering so effective?
I think the biggest cultural shift that needs to happen is that cybersecurity needs to be viewed at what it is, and it's a business risk. It's not just an IT problem, right? I think far too often business leadership just pushes cybersecurity over to their IT department because they're like, oh, well, we need a firewall, we need MFA, we need passwords, and all these things, right? That's all technical. That's an IT guy's problem. And the reality is, when you go through an incident, it's not going to be the IT guy standing in front of the cameras or talking to the press or whatever, right? It's going to be business leadership and likely the CEO or a president or something like that, right? So I think that's the toughest misconception right now, is that cybersecurity is an IT problem and not a business risk problem. Until that mindset changes, I don't think you can actually have a true and effective cybersecurity program. If your leadership team does not believe that it's a business risk issue and they believe that it's important, that being more security minded is important, you can push whatever you want to the end users. If they're not being led, it's just not going to succeed. We've got a customer right now who actually kind of fits that bill, right? We're trying to help the IT director really get a cybersecurity program in place. He sees the importance of it. He sees the value behind it. He knows him and his team can't do it. So one of the first things that we've helped roll out is a security awareness platform, right? Right now, because leadership is they've been missed in every conversation that we've had. They just don't. They view it as an IT problem, not a business problem. Because leadership has not been in part of any of the conversations, and leadership is not leading by example. The security awareness program has about a 30% engagement rate out of all their employees.
Wow.
And so that is a customer who, honestly, the last 2 days, one of the two owners, his account has been compromised yesterday and today. We stopped an account compromised both days.
Wow.
But until that mind shift changes, it'll be a struggle that every SMB endures.
But I mean, is this situation? I just got to ask you: is this unique, or is this what you find out there?
No, I would say this is pretty common.
It is. Wow.
Yeah, I would say it's fairly common, at least for the folks that I've run across. We are able to help change that mindset. It does take time, especially with the business leadership. We've got a small plumbing company. They've got about 20 users. The CEO was very much not on board with doing a lot of our recommendations. And then we sat down with him and mapped it all out and showed where his risk lied. And he said, "Wow, yeah, I didn't realize this, and I really don't want to have to worry about this." So he was all in within a couple weeks. He's our top performer for them as far as from a security awareness standpoint. He's using a password manager. He's doing multi-factor authentication. Like, he's doing all the things, and he's leading by example, and thus the rest of the organization has followed.
But it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, well, it sounds like
that's not the case, unfortunately, with everybody.
Right. I understand. Well, user
not
education,
initially, at least.
Yeah, user education is really, wow, pretty significant and a huge step. And I think as you kind of alluded to, I mean, everybody in the company needs to be engaged and involved and be part of this, from the CEO right down to the work, the team,
that sweeps the floor. Yeah.
Everybody's
got a mailbox. They need to be trained.
Right. Yeah. You got to. Yeah. So, I guess saying all this, that roadmap to true cyber resilience, I mean, there isn't a roadmap. I mean, well, there is. I mean, it just seems like you're so behind the eight ball that it's almost a real challenge. I mean, I know. I mean, I loved you love your passion. I love when I looked at what you do and your website and all. Everything makes perfect sense. Your passion, being able to, your end-to-end security stack, your knowledge and approach around cyber insurance and compliance alignment, and then your proactive co-managed model. And then we talked about, that trusted budget conscious partnership. So saying all that, and then now you're telling me the resistance you get, it sounds like quite the battle. How do you know where to spend your time? Well, how do people find you, or how do you find these organizations that want to change, want to build resilience?
So, I mean, we do a ton of marketing, right, to try to get our name out there. But we've had the most success in just doing in-person events, whether that is a cybersecurity event that we host or co-host with somebody. We do a lot of golf sponsorship, so we typically do a whole sponsorship where we're able to set up a tent at a tee box, and we meet folks as they come through. I think we are probably in a place now where being post COVID, right, where we were all forced to go work from home and do these types of interactions like you and I are doing today. I think a lot of people are starving for in-person type engagements again. And so again, that's where we've had a lot of success, is the in-person networking. In those in-person collaboration settings, we have the ability to do very light and basic, quote unquote, testing for an organization, right? So I have a couple things that I usually go to when I'm talking to somebody for the first time, and I say, listen, if I find a vulnerability here, which is external facing, the likelihood of you having more internal is pretty high. Because we are firm believers in how you do the small things is how you do everything.
So, so your ideal customer profile and I agree with you, face to face, and things are changing, right? And I like what you said about going to the conferences or the industry events, and I've had a lot of success with that myself. So I agree with you. You got to get out there and meet people, and people still buy from people, and you build that trust and build that that trusted advisor type of relationship. But so let me ask, tell me a little bit about are you just local to Michigan where you can do face to faces? Do you span nationwide? I mean, obviously, remote makes it much more affordable for budget conscious SMBs.
Yeah, so the beauty of the work that we do, right? As long as I have an internet connection and my laptop with me, I can support anybody from any corner of the globe, right? We primarily focus on the tri-state area of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. That being said, I've got customers out in California. I've got a customer out in Florida, another one out in Kentucky. So again, we're not geographically bound per se.
Okay, excellent. So let's shift back to AI. So I refer to it as an opportunity and also a challenge. And it is truly incredible the impact that AI is having on, our businesses, our culture. I mean, everything. It's just really incredible. So not only SMBs, but smaller, pardon me, smaller enterprise accounts. But how do they align their AI ambitions with the reality of, what we've been speaking about, governance, compliance, risk management? So saying all that, I mean, it's just, the issues of shadow IT and just, staff just doing what they want. Or like your example earlier of the company that had 3 breaches already. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is definitely going to introduce a different level of risk for organizations. I think a lot of organizations want to adopt it. I think a lot of organizations don't have a strategy in how to do so effectively and safely. Yeah, I mean, like you just said, right? It becomes a level of shadow IT. Your employees are probably using it today. They are probably using the free version, which means anything that they're doing, it could potentially be made public, right? So if they're uploading company data, or sharing any type of sensitive prompts, yeah, I mean that it definitely opens up a significant level of risk for an organization.
Now, so when you think about the vision for the future, do you see a software or security as a service type of scenario in the future for SNMBs? In other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is, a managed security software provider might have their complete offering available as software as a service. In other words, I guess what I'm trying to understand, or is there a way where the industry can improve on the pricing and make it more affordable and more palatable to SNMBs?
Yeah, I think AI is definitely going to play a role in that, right? I think a lot of organizations are figuring out how to use what's known as agentic AI to streamline processes and reduce workforce. So yeah, I can definitely see a future where somebody, an organization like us or a traditional MSP, could be significantly more competitive if they have these AI agents, and not full-time staff, right? You don't have to worry about sick time. You don't have to worry about retirement and benefits and any of that stuff. Right? You just you pay a monthly subscription, or you build an AI agent internally, and yeah, that's your employee base. I don't know that that's going to be something in the next 5 years or 10 years, but I can definitely see that being a potential for the future.
Understand. So I guess then, AI is accelerating both defense and attack capabilities. So what do security leaders like yourself and not only solution providers, but security leaders at the Fortune 200, or what do security leaders need, or what should they be making a priority over these next few years to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, I think if they're not already using AI in some way, shape, or form, they need to at least start looking at it and seeing what the capabilities are. From a security aspect, you want to do it so that you understand how it can be used against you, so that you know how to defend against it. One example that I give to folks is, I think, a very realistic situation that AI could be used from the other side, right? And then how do you use AI then to defend against this? So if I was an attacker and I wanted to attack you, Greg, for example, right? Maybe I use AI to scrape your web page to learn everything there is to know about your organization. Maybe I use AI to scrape your social media accounts to try to understand what you post about and try to get the voice that you use on social media. And then maybe I'm going to your webpage directly, and then I'm going to fill out your sales form, right? So I get to your sales form, I fill out the information, I get an email from you, and now I have an idea of what your email signature looks like. So now I can start crafting, right? I can I've got enough information. I know what your email signature looks like. I know what your domain looks like. Maybe I buy a lookalike domain. Maybe your domain's not set up correctly, and maybe I can just spoof your domain. There's many different avenues, right? But I can use what information I've scraped from your website or from your social media, and then I can have it write an email in your voice, and then email on your behalf to folks out on LinkedIn, or if I'm able to compromise you in some way, shape, or form, maybe I can reach out to your customers on your behalf, and maybe that's just to goof around. Maybe that's to send a fake invoice or something, right? And so if you think about just that situation alone, how can AI be used to defend against such things? And we're starting to see a lot more AI being used for email analysis and that type of thing. I think from a protection side, obviously, you're seeing more and more of these security vendors working AI into their systems. So I'm confident that both sides are using it. It's just going to be kind of a race to see who perfects it better.
Yeah, understand. So, we talked about quite a few different parts of the problem, but so not to be repetitive, but it would be wonderful to know what your vision is. If you could, a magic wand, what is your vision for how organizations can, build a lasting cyber resilience program? And how is Watchdog positioning itself to help lead that shift?
I think the most important piece is just getting started, right? Gone are the days of just being able to bury your head in the sand and pretend that it's not happening. The folks that do that are the ones that are going to be ripe for the picking. As far as what we're doing at Watchdog, we are very much of the mind process of you have to have protection and you have to have insurance. It used to be that insurance was a nice to have. We're just at a point in time in reality that insurance is no longer a nice to have, and it's a requirement. So the first thing that we do in an engagement is we ask if you have a cyber insurance policy. If you say yes, then we ask to see a copy of it, because we want to build you a program that at least brings you into compliance with your insurance policy. Because when the worst day comes, you want to make sure that you're positioned to take advantage of the policy that you've been paying for. You don't want that you don't want that piece to slip through the cracks. If you do have an insurance policy today and it's simply just a rider, it's not worth the paper it's written on, right? You need an actual comprehensive cybersecurity insurance policy, not a $25,000 rider. The $25,000 rider isn't even going to be enough to send out the notices to your customers if you have to report, hey, we lost all your data in a breach. So like I said, our importance is making sure that you have an insurance policy, because the insurance policy is there to cover your financial and your reputational damages, and putting controls in place to minimize damages on the organization overall.
Okay, so we talked about pricing before, and budget conscious partnerships, and we talked about all the services that you do offer, end to end services. Does your model include a tiered pricing model? In other words, if you're going to see you know what I mean. If you're going to see a prospect or a suspect and they have 100 people, this would be the cost to protect a 100-person client.
Yeah, so we've got a tiered system, right? And because we're Watchdog Cyber, we named our tiers based off of dogs. So Everybody starts with the Beagle package. The Beagle package is designed really to get you in alignment with today's cyber insurance standards.
Okay.
The next step up would be our German Shepherd package, which is everything in the Beagle package, plus some additional protections. The German Shepherd package is really going to be more in aligned with folks that are more compliance heavy or compliance minded. And then our final package is the Rottweiler, which again includes everything in the first two packages. And again, there are some advanced tools in that piece as well. And then it also includes quarterly penetration testing services as well.
Okay, understand. Well, that's terrific. And I mean, we talked a lot about a lot of things, but the budget is pretty critical. I mean, and having a solutions that people can afford, so they can operate their businesses. So that's great.
Yeah, from a budget aspect, again, it's going to be expensive if you don't have a line item for it today. So, again, if you're thinking about IT services or cybersecurity services, you really need to take a look at your P&L and try to carve out a budget for IT and cyber. If you don't have a budget, like I said, whatever number me or any of my competition presents to an organization, the immediate gut check is, wow, that's expensive, right?
Right.
Realistically, if you look at what we're bringing to the table versus trying to hire it and build it internally, we're significantly less expensive than trying to build an internal resource, because your salary for just a level one tech these days is going to be somewhere between 40 and 60,000 plus benefits, and then you still have to make the investment in all the stack, right? So we can bring the stack and the resources behind it for considerably less than that.
I agree. All right. Well, Aaron, it was a really robust, wonderful conversation, and your level of expertise is really incredible. And I really enjoyed hearing about how you position Watchdog and the competitive differentiators. So thank you very much. I really, really enjoyed our time together, and I look forward to working with you in going forward.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.